Joseph. Joseph was a great man of God. And what I'm going to do, first I'm going to start with Genesis 5 and 20. I'll just kind of set the text here. If y'all have your Bible, you turn with me to Genesis 50 and 20. All right. Yes. Praise God. God's a good God. He's a good God. Amen. Praise God. Amen. And it says, but as for you, that you thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass as it is this day, and to save much people alive. And that's kind of it. Now I'm kind of tell you about. We can kind of go through the story of Joseph, and kind of go, how the situation was in the family, and we start. There was a lot of conflict in the family, and how it kind of starts off with Jacob. He had 10 sons. 10 of them were by Leah, and 2 were by Rachel. Yeah. And in the beginning, if you go back, it was like Jacob wanted to marry Rachel, and but he had to work 7 years. He had to go back and he got food. He had to go back and all over again and work 7 more years. Amen. But in the end, he had Benjamin and Joseph by Rachel, and this kind of is in the childbirth. Benjamin died, so he, by being that he loved Rachel so much, that was kind of like his favorite son, and they kind of thought he was showing favoritism towards the others. They became jealous of him, yes. And it caused a lot of conflict in the family, yes. And it kind of got so that okay, Joseph, Jacob gave him a robe, made this robe from a robe of many colors, a beautiful robe. Yeah. And the Bible said, it never said that Jacob was proudful with it, but he was just it was just that he know his walk in God. He know he was in God, yeah. And stuff. And but the other kid was just jealous of him about it. And also he had dreams, and that also caused conflict, But that was his God-given talent. That was God gave him, what I'm saying. But they, became jealous of him. He kept, telling the dreams, and like I said, Jacob kind of showed favoritism. He just loved. He was his favorite son, Joseph, and it goes on. Okay, and it goes on. He would send Joseph out, in the field to spy, to check on the other fellows, other guys, his brothers, and they didn't like that either, and he would tell them his dream, but he was just sharing the dream with the family. He wouldn't. That was just him. He was just sharing the dream. Yeah. So as it goes on, this particular day, they really got us tired of his dreams. And at this particular time, Jacob sent him out and check on his brothers, and he had another dream. And this dream, when you go back, Genesis 27 and 9 and 10. Now, what I want to do now, if you want to go back and read it, I want you to kind of go through it. Amen. But if you want to go back and read, if you can go from Genesis 37 to 50, it's a beautiful story. Tell all about what happened. During this time, but at this particular time, he had a dream about another dream, and it said about the sun and the moon and the 11 stars would bow down to me, and that seemed like he was being superior to them, but he was just telling the dream. Yeah. So they went out, and so this particular time, Joseph was sent out by Jacob, check on his brother. They took care of the sheep. So he sent them out to Dothan, a place called Dothan. They were about 63 miles away. And they checked on him. And then they looked up and they saw him coming. And said, oh Lord, here comes this dreamer. Here comes this dreamer. So what they do, they plotted against him, saying, we're gonna kill him. They had got so bad. See, that jealousy is a cruel thing. It is a cruel thing. It brought hatred. They hated him so bad they wanted to kill him. Their own brother. And it said it went on. So on his way to him, he told him, said, well, they plotted, said, what we do, we're going to kill him, we're going to throw him in this pit. And then this pit was kind of like, it was kind of narrow to the top like a baller, and it kind of spin it out to the bottom where ain't no way he going to get out. Now, so they were decided to do, but Reuben told him, said, no, let's don't kill him and just, throw him in the pit. He can't, get out. So what he did say, what he would do when he throw him in the pit, he gonna go back and get him after all the brothers left and came back to his father. That's what he gonna do, So, but they did end up, throwing him in the pit. They threw him in the pit, and I think Reuben had left off. So when what actually happened, a caravan of Israelites came by and they ended up sold him. They sold him for 20 shekels of silver. And then they kind of like tricked him. They said, what we'll do, when Reuben came back, he didn't see Job, but they had sold him to the passing Israelites. And yeah, bear with me saying. And what it was, and after before they had sold him, they came back. You can tell us how cruel they were to him. They sit down and eat at lunch. They done throw the brothers in the pit and sit down and eat lunch. And that's a lot how we look at a lot of things that goes on today. People are so much crime and stuff. They don't care. They'll kill people and go right home and go to bed. They don't even care. Their mind like it's been seared. But that's the time that we live in. That was way back then. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, and it goes on. And what they did, they went back to Jacob. They took their robe off and stripped of the robe and dipped it in blood and went back and told Jacob that a wild beast had killed Joseph. And he was extremely hurt because they were his favorite son. And but when he went down to the Israel, God was always with him though. God was with Joseph. Every step of the way he was with him. So they went down. With the Israelites sold him to Polymer. And Polymer, he was the Egyptian officer of Pharaoh, the captain of his bodyguard. And even though it was bad, but this how he began to rise to power. God put him in a position where they were very prominent, they were wealthy, and he began to learn about the ways of the Egyptians. How they how they operate, how they do. But God was with him. He was just elevated him. And as it went on, and then as he rose to power in Parliament, Parliament trusted him, so he gave him just all the power next to him. And he trusted him in everything. He gave him everything except his wife. And Job was doing very good. He was doing very good. But then temptation came. His wife, Paul's wife, tried to tempt Joseph. But God was still with him. God through it. How he got away? He didn't bow down to her seductive way. He had to flee. And sometimes when temptation comes, that's the best thing to do is just run. You got to get away. Sometimes you can't play with the devil. You can't do. Some things on TV you can't be looking at. So some things you gotta guard your heart. And a lot of times the stronger man to win. If you gotta build yourself up in the spirit, keep the spirit man built up. But the Bible says when you see the death to the God is eternal life. So you gotta keep in the things of God. To stay focused. So you stay. But God was still with Joseph. And I'm almost something I want to read too. Else, I begin to read. I'm going to read this here too. Okay, and this is and he must have wondered why all these bad things happened to me. In fact, obedience to my father, I ended up in a pit in the face of honoring my master. I ended up in prison. As far as we know from the text, he hadn't done anything. This cannot be construed as divine punishment. He is endeavoring to honor the Lord by honoring his father, honoring his Lord by honoring his master. He done what was right. his circumstances seemed completely unfair, but God, by the evil deed of others which God does not condone, and Joseph is exactly where has Joseph exactly where he wanted him to be. God, okay. The Lord is perfectly in control. The Lord doesn't do evil. The Lord doesn't condone evil. The Lord isn't in the evil, but the Lord uses evil. So that was what it said today. But you know, God, like you said, God was in control all the time. You know, but this all God planned for Joseph's life being unfolded. And as it went on, by the accusation that Polymer's wife caused Joseph to be put in prison, and when he got down to prison, he got favor with the head of the fellow that was in the prison. Wherever he went, God gave him favor. God was with him. You know, and stuff. And down while he was down in the prison, he met the now it was a special prison. Pharaoh had a special prison for the people that did things in his court. He had a special prison, special for them. And this is where Joseph went, you know, and stuff. And okay, and also the cupbearer, there was a confusion in the in the kingdom, where the cupbearer and the baker, there was a problem. So they ended up down in the prison. And so so they was still God at work. But God, one time they had a dream, and what it was, God used Joseph to reveal what the dream was about the cupbearer and the baker. And so, what the dream was, that the cupbearer, he ended up going back into the palace. You know, he was restored back to power. But the dream for the baker, he was hung. So he was hung. So by interpreting this dream, only thing, you know, Joseph kind of thought that he was kind of being in good terms with the cupbearer, and you know, when he go back, he would put in some good words for him to Pharaoh, you know, and he would let him know that, you know, he hadn't done anything either, so he wanted to get out of this place. So, but the thing is, it went on. He was still 2 more years down into prison, and what did he when the cupbearer went back, he forgot all about him. He got amnesia. He forgot all about what Joseph asked him to do, and how soon we can forget, you know, sometimes. But as it went on, but later, God still was at work. Still at work with Joseph. So as it went on, Joseph, Pharaoh had a dream, and he was very disturbed by that dream. He didn't know, he was very disturbed. And everybody in his kingdom couldn't interpret the dream. The dream, the wise men and all the sort, nobody could interpret that dream. So the cupbearer heard about it. Then when Pharaoh was talking about it, the cupbearer remembered. Then his mind was jarred. He remembered about Joseph down there. So he immediately went down and got Joseph and brought him to Pharaoh. And he interpreted the dream. And the dream Pharaoh had, it was saying that there would be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. And what they wanted to do, and immediately Pharaoh saw how intelligent and how wise that Joseph was. So he put him ahead of. He needed somebody, to be ahead of. See, he knowed all this, and he saw that God was with him. He saw that God was with Joseph. So he ended up putting him. He ended up being the second in command of the kingdom. He ended up being second in command. So everywhere he went, God gave him favor. You know, even though bad things happened to him, but God still was with him. And sometimes, they're like, I was talking about that commercial about the Clement law firm. It said bad things do happen to good people. I thought about that. But in this case, God was with him, with Joseph. And as it went on, and so Joseph was telling, he had he was very business minded. But as a different position, when he was in the jail, he was learning about, you know, how to take care of business and book work and all that stuff. He learned it down there, and now, you know, God was training him for this position that he was gonna be put in. So as okay, now as okay, when you were down, okay, and it was amazing how suddenly, that kind of always stick with suddenly. Now sometimes God can do, it might not take a long time. God can do things suddenly. He suddenly came or was or not suddenly. You know, sometimes, you know, we serving a God can do anything. And sometimes we may have to go through a process, you know, may take time, but sometimes God can do things suddenly. And I mean, God gave that last year suddenly, you know, suddenly. And this is what happened. He came from the prison to the palace. You know, and one day he came to prison to the palace. And this is all what the Lord doing. And all through this, Joseph never forgot God. You know, and he was being elevated to the position. He always honored God. He never, you know, forgot where he came from. And I think that's a key. People never get where you come from. You know, always, you know, give God the glory. You know, whatever God do, give him the glory. You know, the God gets the glory, because that's how it should be. So, and okay, now they began to plan, you know, for the family that was come in the good years. They began to store up grain and be beans and stuff, and God was using Joseph to orchestrate all of this, you know, all in the good years. And that same thing today, you know, you need to always kind of set something aside. You know, never spend all your money. You know, always put a little bit aside, because you don't never know when a tough time is going to bring it may come, you know, and then you can have something to, you know, to fall back on, you know, because that's what the Bible speaks, in Proverbs speaks about the end. And they were wise. They were very wise. In the summer, they stored up for the winter, so you know they'll have food. You know, so they'll be able to survive. So that's a good point. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And so that's what Joseph do. Now you might want to think, so why all these dreams? He interpreted the dream for the cupbearer, and he interpreted the dream for Pharaoh. And what about all his dreams? You know, when he said that he's going to bow down, you know, his family, you're going to bow down and you know, to him. But now this is beginning to take place. All they getting to take place. Now what he did, he had, Pharaoh he had to go. Now when we were going into years of famine, and the food began to get short in Israel, and he had them to go back down in Israel to get his family. And that's when they came back, but they didn't know that was Joseph. But Joseph knew, you know, and stuff. And all those things that they had did to him, you know, all those things he did, that Joseph had a very forgiving spirit. Now he had power to strong, to put him in love, to get back at, but he didn't have a vindictive spirit. You know, he know God was in control. You know, he let God, you know, took care of everything. And that was a beautiful thing. That was very beautiful. And what it did, and so when they came to go out, I think he said he had all his men to go out, and his family, all his family there, and they sit back to get Benjamin. So all the brothers were there, and he revealed himself to him, and he just wept. He just wept before him, you know. He just hugged him, grabbed him, so glad that, you know, to see him. And at one point I look back when they had told him, when they were first, you know, throw him in the pit, and he begged Joseph, please don't do this to me. He called me hard. And now this time he could have got back, but he didn't get back in the way. He didn't do it. You know, and this is where all of them, all the family, and all the people, they called all the people that came to the land of Goshen, and all the people, you know, and what happened? What they were God plan, where Israel will survive, you know, because if they didn't have food, they didn't. All the other nations came around. They were buying food from the Egyptians, you know. Joseph had orchestrated there, stored everything up, you know, so everybody were able to you know, have food to eat, and all the people of Israel they came, you know, all his family came, told him bring them all, and they ended up saying they lived in the land of Goshen. you know, but what that's about the theme of it. But but what happened? God allowed all those things to happen. You know, all through the different heartaches that Joseph went through, but he was preparing for this time, that particular time. But what it did is they didn't. If Israel hadn't survived, you know, they were the lineage of the prophets. The prophets were coming through Israel, and Jesus Christ. He came through all that lineage. So that's what God prepared. So He preserved them. And say they stayed down there 400 years in Goshen, but this Pharaoh didn't know. I guess Pharaoh was just like a president, I guess, like that, with the head of them. But they didn't know him, and then it came back to Moses. He had to set them free again. But that was all a part of God's plan, you know. And you know, all of us have to go through something, you know, to get what God wants us to be. But the thing is, we have to ourselves down and just, we don't understand everything, but God got it for a reason. And for a reason and a purpose. And you just go through, humble yourself down and go through. And He said, many are placed are righteous, but God will deliver us out of them all. We don't see the full picture, but God is, you know, God in control of your life, you know He's in control, that we got to just trust Him, that we're going to have the victory will be ours towards the end. You know, and that, like I said, that was a beautiful story of saints. And that's how we're going to read right here. We're going to read in this little book. It's okay, this kind of stood out to this little bit. It said, as you face hardship, keep in mind that its intensity will not exceed your capacity to bear it. God never sent adversity into your life to break your spirit or destroy you. If you respond improperly, you can destroy yourself. But God's purpose is always to bless, to strengthen, to encourage, and to bring you to the maximum of your potential. Thank you for potential. So a lot of times we gotta go through a lot of suffering in this life. But God, He gonna make us the best that we can be. You know, best that we can be. You know, and we gotta be willing to go through whatever God allows. If God allows it, He gonna take us through it. You know, and He said, "I'll never leave you, forsake you. I'll be with you to the end of the world." You know, and God is a good God. I say God is faithful. God is faithful. If He said it, God gonna bring it to pass. You know, and you just gotta be patient and go through and just trust God that the things gonna work out. You know, and you know that was a beautiful story, saying, and that's about it. But I just wanted, and it really made me kind of go and try to. I didn't know all that about him. So you know, you go like from 37 to 50. You know, and Genesis. So if you want to go back and just read, you can skip some of the chapter, but Genesis 37 through chapter 50, that kind of explains everything that has been said, and you can get a better understanding for yourself. And I just thank God for that, saying, and all you know the words of prayer, y'all pray my joy in the Lord. God bless you.